What's going on, guys? And welcome to another edition of the RPO College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jerome Jones, and I'm here with none other than the man, the myth, the legend. You already know who he is, Mr. Ray Roberts. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, Jerome. How are you?
Doing great, man. Doing great. It is the beginning of June. The months have flown past. I feel just like yesterday since the NFL draft, but we got a lot to talk about because yes, it's the off season. Yes, it's not a lot of news, but we come to you with all the news and covering a lot of your favorite teams. So we're gonna get right into it, but just to give you a little recap of what we did last week. Last week, we touched on a couple of teams out there. I believe we did Florida, one of the bigger schools that we did last week, Appalachian State, and I forgot the other one that we did. But if you don't mind going back to watch that one after you watch this, if you're watching live right now, I see a couple guys in here watching, so we do appreciate that. Make sure you go and watch that later on. See if there's other teams that you may like. Go and watch that. If you are in here right now, we do a live podcast and we do interaction. So if you want to add something to the interaction in here, please do that in the comment section. We will apply. We can put it on the screen for you, and we can get right to it. But today we're gonna get right into some really good teams, but one team in particular that we definitely wanted to touch on today to honor one of the greatest NFL running backs of NFL history. Just passed away a few weeks ago. So me and Ray were talking about it last week. We decided to add this team on there to honor him, the late Jim Brown. And, Jim Brown was a big guy to really pioneer a lot of the stuff that a lot of running backs do today, and setting that stage of what a NFL elite running back look like, So with that being said, we're going to be talking about Syracuse up there in the north, up there near you, Ray, in the New York area. The home of Jim Brown. Obviously, you got Donovan McNabb, who played for the Eagles, went to Syracuse. Let's get right into how their roster is going to be looking like this year. They lost some big guys this year. Matthew Bertrand coming from there. Devin Witherspoon. First and foremost, overall, how do you overall look at how the Syracuse team will play this year, Ray?
I think that there will be probably about like they were last year. If you remember last year, they actually started out pretty well.
Yes.
They had like a really nice record early in the year, and then they settled in at like 7-6. So
yeah,
I like Dino Baver as their coach. I just think that like they get decent players. They don't get great caliber players. I mean, they do get a player here and there. I mean, I just think that they need to find more consistency in the offensive and defensive lines.
Definitely.
So
yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I mean, especially we already talked about losing Matt Beltran in the NFL draft this year. They're going to put a big dent on that. But let's look at the quarterback position right now. Obviously, we're going to have Garrett Schrader coming back to his senior year. He had an arm injury last year, so what do you think? What do you think about him, and how you think he can lead this team? Because after him, it's very young. I mean, they have sophomore, and sophomore right after him. So there's not a lot of experience after him. How do you think he can kind of lift this team, Ray?
I think he's a nice, solid player. I mean, he had a up and down year last year, like Syracuse did.
Yeah.
But they do have a run that gets in it. He plays like H-back, tight end type guy, big receiver who actually makes plays. Had a really nice year last year. They have Trevor Pina, the wide receiver, who's a junior. Again, they are young in a lot of key positions. So I like Damian Alford, their wide receiver, who's a junior. I think he's a good football player. Again, they just need to find some guys that can help them play this year and build on last year. But they are replacing Matthew Bergeron, who was probably their best offensive lineman. So we'll see how that part of it goes. But I think that they're there's enough talent on the team to be where they were last year.
Definitely. No, I agree. Like you said, with some of the missing pieces that they got. I mean, they had some guys on their team. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Sean Tucker was another guy that they lost. The running back team looking a little light. You got the Escobar brothers that can kind of fill in. DeJuan Price coming in as well, so that's gonna kind of help them in their running back position. I think the receivers are solid guys. They most of them are coming back. I don't who did they lose somebody in the wide receiver group? I'm blanking right now.
No, not really. Their wide receivers were all young guys this year. They're all juniors this year.
Correct.
Again, I think Damian Alford is probably the best of the lot of them.
Mhm.
But they're nice players. Their defense is where they really need to improve, though, to be
Yeah,
honest with you. I mean, it was solid last year, but it was up and down. I mean, I went to
100%.
see Notre Dame play against them, and Notre Dame probably had one of their best offensive games against them that day.
100%.
So, again, their defense is where they're going to have to improve. Their offense will be solid. I think
Definitely.
they're a solid team.
Definitely. No, and we're gonna get into the defense in a second, a little more intensely. But I do want to point out sure is how would you say his name? Andre Gaston.
Run against
He, say
Aronde.
again. Aronde, yeah,
Aronde
okay.
Jackson.
Aronde. All
But
right, awesome.
his dad played for the Dolphins.
Yeah, Aronde, man, he's a guy.
He
He
is.
is a
He's
guy.
very much similar to his father, but maybe a little bit more speed.
Athletic. Yeah,
You know,
100%. Yeah.
Rodney Gaston was a big guy with big hands, a nice
Mhm.
possession guy. I think his son is a little bit more athletic than he was.
Yes, yes, yes. He's gonna be one of those guys in come out in the draft. He's gonna be a junior this year, so he have to come out early. But I mean, the way he's playing, man, if he can keep up that consistency with his quarterback, and that's gonna be his number one target at this point. So
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
71 receptions for almost 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. I
yeah,
think he'll be better than that this year. So
100%, 100%. He's a guy that we got a small school guy. You're looking for a small school guy, small school tight end that you want to watch for this season going into next year's draft. He's definitely one of them. And if everything checks out, I will not be surprised if he came out early and went into this upcoming season draft. So again, if you guys looking for an early, draft guy, he is definitely one of them for sure. He's a boss. So definitely keep an eye on him this year. All right, let's talk about this defense, Ray. And like you said, last year they were definitely underwhelming. They had a lot of underclassmen though, a lot of sophomores, a lot of freshmen. A lot is going to change this year. Overall, let's start with the defensive line. What do you see from that group right there?
I mean, I think there's some guys there, defensive end. I hate
Mm-hmm.
saying his name. It's Kalib Ochuwaka, I believe is how it's said, or something close to that.
Caleb,
But yeah, Caleb Okachu, however you say that name. He's a long kid who's a
Achukwu,
nice athlete. Yeah, that's a weird name.
Okachukwu.
Um,
Sorry, sorry, to be butchering your name, man. Sorry.
yeah, well, I'm not even gonna try to say it again. But I like Julius Greer to the sophomore. I think he's a nice little player. Stephen Thompson is a linebacker. Derek McDonald's a linebacker. Their linebackers are all pretty solid football players. It's their secondary. They have very little cornerback depth, and they're not great players to begin with. So,
Definitely. I do want to apologize. Earlier, I did say Devin Witherspoon, Syracuse. He's actually on Illinois. I do that
he
sometimes.
did go to Illinois.
I do that sometimes with these two teams, same colors. So I do that sometimes. So I apologize. I just caught myself. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. But no, they do have a lot of good players, and a lot of players that a lot of people would not know, and a couple of guys that you need to know for this year for sure. So I'm curious to see how this team goes. But as we do always, right, we're gonna kind of evaluate the schedule that they have right now. So I'm going to look at their roster right now. So obviously last year They were 7-6 overall, like Ray said, which was third in the Atlantic Conference. And this year they will be playing the first game versus Colgate, so they'll be home then. West Michigan playing them in the second game. Third game will be at Purdue, then home at Army. They're gonna be home against Clemson. They're gonna be at North Carolina, at Florida State, at Virginia Tech. So 3 games on the road, 2 games at home with Boston College and Pittsburgh. They're gonna be away for Georgia Tech and home to finish off against Wake Forest. So already looking at that schedule, it looks a little tough, man. What do you think?
Jerome, if you look at that schedule, man, I only see 5 or 6 wins there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I agree.
We do. I think at Purdue could go either way. Western Michigan, you better beat Colgate and Western Michigan. You probably could beat Army, but I'm not going to say you will. You won't beat Clemson. You probably won't beat North Carolina. You probably won't beat Florida State. Virginia Tech can go either way. We always talk every year about Virginia Tech being athletic but not being productive all the time. So that is a go either way game. Versus Pittsburgh, it's at home. You could win. At Georgia Tech and Wake Forest. I mean, I'm having a hard time searching for more than 6 wins there, to be honest with you.
I agree. Tough stretch, especially in the middle of their schedule. Early on, they had to come out fire, and they should beat Colgate.
Who did they piss off to get at North Carolina, at Florida State, and at Virginia Tech?
That's a rough stretch. Okay,
why?
The funny thing is that stretch starts off at Clemson. They're not at Clemson. They're home, but they're playing Clemson. And
that's wow.
And then you go on the road, and you got 3 hard conference player teams that you got to go against away.
See, that is a situation where if I were Syracuse, I would much rather have one of them 3 away games early in the season, like game 1, and then put Colgate down there in between them 2 teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, especially if it were at Virginia Tech, first game of the year, you're going to Virginia Tech, but it's going to be fairly warm. It's going to be nice weather for both teams. I mean, that is a game you could win, and you still may beat them. But after you lose to Clemson and North Carolina and Florida State, probably. That's wow.
That run is crazy.
I don't get that. I don't. Yeah. That's where the schedule makers did them no favors there for sure.
100%. No, 100%. And looking at how that might go, you got to remember the middle of the seasons where you kind of start to gel. But if you in the middle of the season and you see yourself losing consistent games, it really affects you at the end of the season.
The crazy thing is, say you play well throughout the year. And like you did last year. Last year they played really well in the first half of the season.
Very well. Actually.
So say they beat Colgate. They should. They should beat Western Michigan. Will they? They should. Okay. At Purdue is a tough game. Purdue is a top 5 program. I know that they're not a great team right now, but again, you could win the game, but it's away. So either way. But say you beat them. And then say you beat Army you get lucky, you beat Army and you're 4-0. It don't matter because you're going to lose the next 3 games.
That is wild.
That puts a lot of pressure on you the first 4 games to at least be 3-1. Yeah. Hopefully 2 or at least 2-2. If not, man, you could have a really bad year.
Oh, 100%. 100%, man. Wow. It's very interesting to see how that goes, man. And hopefully, they do better than we think they are. But that is a tough stretch. So
it's funny though, man. If you look at their schedule last year, I'm looking at the record now. They were actually 1, 2, 3. They were 6-0 to start the year last year.
Oh yeah, I remember.
But that was against Louisville, Connecticut, Purdue. Again, you could beat Purdue, even though you only beat them by 3 at home. But still, it's Purdue. They're not a great team. Then Virginia, then Wagner. So, and then you beat NC State, which was a nice win.
Yeah.
Okay. And
At that
then,
point, I was telling people like, "Hey, I should might look at Syracuse," and then everything kind of fell apart.
yeah, well, the shame of it was they had that game against Clemson where they were right in it till the end and they lost it. And
Yeah,
then pretty much Notre Dame really was probably their worst game of the year up until that point.
because I remember that was the turning point for you guys as well.
Yeah.
Like, you guys started off bad. And
We started out, we were like 1-3, I think, or something like
Yeah.
that to start the year last year.
Yeah, like you guys, and we'll get into Notre Dame at some point, but Notre Dame was start off slow, and then that game turned you guys around because you had, like you said, you had a really good offensive performance against these guys, and then everything kind of fell apart from there. So,
I mean, the first 6 games they go 6-0. The next 7 they go 1-6.
yeah, that's rough.
But again, you look at Clemson, Notre Dame, Pitt, Florida State, at Wake Forest, which again you could have probably. Let me see the score of that game. 35-45. So you didn't really play that well, but that was the point. If you looked at the games, they didn't. Their defense were the ones that really kind of did them in down the stretch there. So,
100%. All right, guys. Again, if you like what you're hearing or you want to comment, definitely put the comments in the comment section. We are live doing our podcast talking about the previews of the 2023 season. Right now, we're going to go into Coastal Carolina, a team that I like a lot. To talk to these guys on a consistent basis. Really good organization. Been having one of the best 10 years they ever had in forever as a program. So let's talk about it. Overall, Ray, what do you think about this team? Last year they were 9-4.
Good team especially in this conference. They're one of the better teams. Them and Appalachian State are usually one of the better teams in this conference. They're a good team. Grayson McCall is a good quarterback. He's a nice player. They have Tyson Mobley, a wide receiver, who's a senior. He's a good football player. Jared Brown, who's a sophomore. He's a good football player. Left tackle Dino Williams is a good football player. So they're a good team on offense, and they're really not a bad team. Of course, on their defense, I love Kennedy Roberts, their nose tackle. He's a really nice 3-tech, 1A tech type of a kid. He's a nice football player. Tobias Fletcher, the safety they have, is a nice physical player. They have a lot of talent on this team. Not surprisingly, they're usually a pretty good team. So,
no, 100%. I am. Like I said, I've been covering these guys a while, and the year that they really out was 2000 or 2001, one of those years. And they lost a lot of players that year, either through just graduating or getting drafted, things like that. Last year, the last 2 years, it's been kind of a lesser type of year for those guys, and saying that lightly because they're still a good team and they've been playing very well. Even having a little down to them, but looking at their roster and seeing the players that are still there and are upcoming, I think this team's going to be a team to watch for sure. You mentioned Grayson McCall, Ray. Their starting quarterback the last 4 years, played as a freshman, played very, very well. Started getting on the NFL radar very early in his career. He was actually on the verge of transferring. He was in transfer portal at one point.
yeah.
Then he decided to come back. And I know that is a blessing for these teams. Let's talk about that a little bit, Ray, because I don't think we talked a lot. We did mention it before, but we didn't. I don't think we went into it. What do you think about him coming back to Coastal Carolina to play his last year?
I think it was a good decision for him. I mean, I don't remember where he was transferring to. Do you remember?
He was
just entered in the portal.
He was just in the portal.
I think I hate to say this, maybe not the right team came after him. So I guess if you're going to go back to a team that's might as well go back to one you're familiar with.
100%.
I mean, I think maybe he thought he was going to get like
You rather say
where
it?
somebody, yeah, where somebody, one of the bigger programs were going to offer him at least a chance to start,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen.
I'll say this: that was probably the best timing that he could possibly did that. Honestly, if you think about it, a lot. I mean, especially considering last year's draft, this this draft that just came up had a lot of high quality quarterbacks that came out, which
Yeah.
meant that there was going to be spots that's going to be open. So I think he did it in the right spot. I don't fault him for it because again, like I said, he had NFL, potential, and I heard very early that he could potentially be a first round pick. Let's see how that goes. You never know. He did have some injuries that came up that kind of slowed him down. Again, with the roster change, I know that affected him a little bit as well. So I still have confidence in him. I think he's still a good quarterback. Not sure if he's going to be a first round pick still, and that's going to be hard to see. But I think, like you said, he took his chance, see if he could get into a bigger program. Nobody really bit. He's coming back. I know Coastal Carolina is very happy about that. But this team's a good. I think this good roster is a good team where he can thrive from. Obviously when the draft come up, the draft evaluator is gonna be like, oh, he just went to Coastal Carolina. We'll see how that goes. We had some small guys got drafted early as well. So I think if he can play, Grayson McCall from 2020, whatever, he was a freshman, and his sophomore year pretty good too. I think this team's gonna really move as he moves.
I think that he was one of the quarterbacks that Notre Dame was
Mm,
talking to, and I think when they decided to go with Sam Hartman, I
yeah,
think that was his thing. Like, oh, I'm not going to go to the program I want to go to. Then
correct.
I might just go back to the one I'm familiar with. The thing that we have seen the last 5 years or so, maybe a little bit, maybe when going back to when Ben Roethlisberger was coming out of college, I think man, we've shown even as much as Carson Wentz didn't have a great career, he was drafted high. I think if you're a talented player, man, he'll come and calling. And then sometimes, man, you're better off being a Ben Roethlisberger and being taken a little bit earlier because you go to a better team.
100%.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. So, well, obviously, Grayson McCall is going to have some guys to kind of help him out. To start off with, some of the running back, Reese White. I really like Reese White. He's going to be a fifth year senior this year. Going out there, coming back to his team. What do you think about Reese?
Nice football player. I think that him and Braden Barnett kind of
Mm-hmm.
like work 1 and 2, like a
Yep.
nice under lightning type combination. I,
Mm-hmm.
I think that again, Coastal Carolina is a team that they do want to have a balanced offense as much as they can.
100%, 100%. But you also got, the guy you just talked about earlier, Jared Brown, really good receiver. It's actually, he's going to the junior year. He actually lived 10 minutes away from where I'm at right now in Georgia. So, really good kid. I think he's going to be a good player for them. A couple of other receivers they have. Um, Overall, what do you think about their receiving core?
I like them. I think they're all good football players. I think that Mobley and Brown are guys that will definitely be drafted without a doubt.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, I do think Mobley needs to bulk up a little bit more. He is
He's a little
listed
thin.
at yeah,
He's a little thin, but
he's listed at 170 right now. So I never want to like knock a kid for that, especially like they got time to get bigger and hit the gym and all that as well, especially afterwards. But that will be a little concern for scout evaluators when they look at him. But hey, what's his name just got drafted at corner. So
165,
Emmanuel Forbes,
160.
uh, yeah, yeah. So it's not out of the realm, but like obviously you want to be a little bit bigger when you want to get out there to get your name in the NFL. Let's talk about the offensive line, Ray. What do you think about the how strong are they?
I like Dino Wilson a lot. I like Will McDonald a lot. They're both left guard and left tackle.
Hmm.
Um, Thomas Johnson is a young guy getting ready to develop. Dylan Luther is a senior who's a good is a technically sound football player who does get bullied a little bit at
Yeah.
guard.
Hmm.
But I mean, the right tackle is a young guy. I mean, I'm sorry, the right tackle is a senior also. Who that's the problem. You got a guard that gets bullied and a right tackle that's not that athletic. They both want to. One guy wants to run the ball, one guy wants to pass protect. So that's where their offense runs into problems, I think.
No, I agree. I agree. I think that also, looking at Coastal Carolina's history at offensive line, they typically have smaller guys. The one year they really good offensive line. Don't get me wrong, but they were all very small guys. I don't think any of them was over 280. And there was a graphic on that. I had it before. I don't have it now. But a lot of these guys are bigger guys, so they're getting bigger guys in there now.
Not as athletic though.
You're right. You're right. But as much more success that you have, the better recruits that you can get into a building. So getting some bigger guys that can anchor the offensive line a little bit more, and like you say, not as athletic, because obviously being a small offensive line, you got to be a little bit more athletic. But they are bigger guys that can hold the anchor a little bit more for Grayson McCall. So
I do like Willie Moister, junior guard on tackle. I would not be surprised if he takes over that starting spot. You may even do that and maybe move the Lindsay into guard. I may think about doing that because then I get two athletic guys instead of one guy who is a solid athlete, but again can get bullied a little bit. So
correct. Definitely, we'll definitely see how that kind of plays out. Let's get into their offense. I'm sorry, their defense right now. Coastal Carolina have been producing some really good defensive linemen the past couple of years. A few of them that we got to interview. Obviously, Tyree Johnson play for the Eagles right now. One of our favorite guys up there. Looking for still in their rotation with the Eagles, playing very well actually. Let's talk about their defensive line. How it kind of stacks against some of the older defensive line from the last couple of years, right?
I think they're okay. Again, I think the right defensive tackle, Kennedy Roberts, is probably their best defensive lineman. He's a guy who plays with good leverage and he's a good, solid athlete. Joaquin Griffin is a senior, plays defensive end, but he's more of a guy who just is a run player. He's not really a pass rusher per se. I just think that that's where I think they're not great up front. Their linebackers are okay. Their defense is not great. It's just okay.
Yeah, this is probably one of the weaker defenses I've seen in the last couple of years for them. So I'm definitely curious to see how it all kind of ties in together.
I mean, if you look at the games that they won, they still won, gave up 28 points to Army, 27 points to Gardner Webb. Buffalo scored 26 points. Georgia State scored 24. Georgia Southern scored 30. The good teams against them, like James Madison, scored 47. Troy scored 45. Eastern Carolina scored 53. I mean, that's just not – you're not going to do anything giving up that kind of points.
We definitely can't rely on that right there.
I mean, Grayson McCall, it's worse than that. When you get up leads like that and you become one-dimensional, maybe that's why Grayson McCall's like, man, if I get some blocking and I get a good run game behind me, who knows how – again, he probably thought more about draft status when he entered the transfer portal.
100%.
I really think that was part of why he made the decision.
100%.
But again, you're not going to go to a really good team.
I can't see him not getting drafted at all, though.
No, he'll be drafted. There's no question. There's enough upside where right now he's a third or fourth round pick.
Correct.
All right. So if you ball out though, and you're on a good team, maybe you move up into that second round pick. So I think that's where he was looking at. But again, if you're going to stay in school and you're not going to get to a bigger program, you might as well just stay the one you're comfortable with because he puts up stats.
Yep.
And at least that will at least get your eye, so
100%. To get kind of jump back into their secondary, a guy that we're definitely keeping an eye on. I think you guys should too. Coming in as a freshman, Derek Maxey is a safety out here in Atlanta. Got to interview him. He's a really good kid. I think he can definitely play for them, potentially start maybe next year, maybe get some reps in there. So a guy just kind of keep an eye on Derek Maxey, their safety, like I said, out of Atlanta out here. All right, let's get into our next team. And as always, like I said before, definitely if you are on here live, you can definitely put your comments in the comment section. We will answer it, put it on our screen, and we can definitely answer anything that you put on there. Obviously, if it's appropriate. All right, let's get to our next team. It is Nebraska. Nebraska Cornhuskers were 4-8 last year. A team that has some bumps and bruises. I'll say it like that. Overall, Ray, how this team looking to you?
They're a weird team for me because I am a fan of the program, but they were not very good last year. So
yes,
they gave up a lot of points to a lot of different teams. I'm hoping because I want the Big Ten to be an improved team or an improved conference.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they brought in Matt Rule. But again, Matt Rule is a good coach. But where Matt Rule shines is recruiting.
Correct.
So that's going to take time.
It's definitely going to take time. It's definitely a team that, excuse me, it's kind of washed down on talent right at the moment. I believe. I know they have a few bright spots, but I think it's kind of washed down on talent right now. And like you said, right, getting I'm blanking on his name right now.
Matt Rule.
Getting Matt Rule, a guy that has NFL pedigree. Didn't have.
He has a pedigree of creating good college programs.
Well,
his NFL pedigree is not quite what he
No. Okay, let me rephrase that. I gotta have a NFL resume.
Yes, that's correct.
NFL resume. He got to the league. He was looked at as somebody that was one of the top coaches in the college rounds some years ago. So he got some validity to him. He could get some recruits in.
No, he's definitely a good recruiter.
Yeah,
but I think that's where these guys they lose their taste. Like a Nick Saban, where like you're not recruiting kids now, you're drafting them. You can't just go out there and say, "Oh, I like you." It's who falls to you and how much do you like them then?
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's talk about it, Ray. Let's talk about their quarterback positions right now. I know that they got Jeff Sims right now is probably their most veteran quarterback out there. Quarterback position as a whole, though, what's your overall take of that?
I think Sims is an okay player. I know they brought in Casey Thompson. I think that he's going to compete. I don't know who's going to shake out and be the starter. We'll find out soon, I guess. But I'm not a fan of the quarterback by committee type of thing. Yeah. And I think that's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too, Ray. He likes his guys the way he do. I think Cooper Hassman, I think that's how you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
He was a freshman. He probably going to be one of the gadget guys that he can bring in here and there as well. But overall, the quarterback position, and I always kind of look at these these programs based on how their quarterbacks kind of look first, and then kind of go through their roster. This is one of those teams where I'm not too impressed or excited about this position. And then for me, I kind of all right. Well, the quarterback position is not the great, but hey, let's see if they got some really good running backs that can spell them. So with this running back position, Ray, what's your overall thought on the running back position as well?
I mean, I like Anthony Grant. I think he's a good slashing type running back. I think he's a solid football player. He's not exciting, but he's solid.
Yeah,
I think that Marcus Washington, their senior wide receiver, is a nice, solid football player. I don't think he's nothing exceptional.
hmm
Um, their problem is that their offensive line is guys that are just big. They're not really athletic,
yeah,
and they don't like you always just see Nebraska used to run the ball. That's what they do there, right?
right. Yep.
But right now they don't have the offensive lineman or the running back to be that team.
Yep, and you took that right out of my mouth, Ray, because the running back position is not that great right now.
Nah, like it's not what Nebraska's running back position usually
Yeah.
is.
So like without the running back and now the quarterback, it's going to be very hard for them to score points, in my opinion.
And I
Because
mean, their offensive line are like nice, solid, big kids, but they're like you said, they're all. I'm looking at their players now. They have one, two, three, four offensive linemen that actually could be drafted, but none of them will play tackle in the NFL.
definitely,
So you
yeah,
know what I mean? Like you're talking about like tacklers transitioning into guard at the next level, and guards that may transition to center, or one may be a backup somewhere.
hmm
They'll get drafted because they're Nebraska offensive linemen, but
yeah,
they're not that athletic.
correct, correct. All right, let's get into this defense, man. Solid defense. I don't think they're bad at all. They got some names in here. Definitely be talking about a couple of guys in here. But Ray, what do you think about this defense?
I think they're a veteran type team on defense. I think they're okay. I
Yeah,
think if they can have some balance to their offense and not let their tongue hang down to their knees at the time. I think there's talent there. I think that
yeah,
Ty Robinson is a good football player. I think Raymer is a good football player. They're both one is a lineman, one is a linebacker. Nick Heinrich is a good football player,
yeah.
but they played so much last year because their inability to sustain offense.
Yep,
Just
that might be the
they
issue.
got worn down.
Yeah, that might be the issue. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna name some guys that I think are gonna be good guys. Some of them are gonna be future guys that they just got in the building. But I know a big transfer for them. Chief Borders, linebacker. He played at um he played at Florida last year. He's a good player, man. He looked like he's gonna be doing some good stuff for them there. I think they needed a guy like there. Grant Buda's another one that he's a good guy to kind of pair him up with. Um, Maybe some futuristic guys I'm about to talk about right now, but Cameron Lockhart, a guy that we got interviewed from ING Academy, a good recruit right there. Very solid line defensive lineman right there. Another guy that we interviewed was the corner Ethan Nation down here in Georgia. Really good player, really highly recruited guy. Gonna be a good future guy for them. But right now, some of these guys are not gonna be able to play. But Scott's like we were just talking about, Ray. Matt Rule with the recruiting. He recruited some good guys, got some guys out of the transfer portal to be some solid players and be, really good for them. And we'll see how it all kind of mixes in together because we got to see how it plays out on the field because a lot of these guys are new to the team.
Mhm.
But, I think they got some, he started off pretty good with a bang, going there, get some guys right off the bat. I mean, time will tell, obviously, but I think he's off to a good start with the recruiting.
Yeah, I think he's a good recruiter. I think he'll do a good, solid job. I like this move from Nebraska. I do. I think we talked about it earlier, where with the coaching changes in the Big Ten, I think their conference could really even be better than it's been the last few years. And I think Matt Rule is a good enough coach on offense and a smart enough guy that who'll put his offense in better situations than they were in last year.
100%.
And they did play, and it looks like they're going to. I'm assuming they're still going to play a 3-3-5, which Jerome, it's a nice concept. But when you're tired in your backfield from chasing people down, it's just not a good formula for winning many games. It's just not.
No, I agree. All right, let's get into the schedule. Like I said earlier, 4-8 overall. They're gonna start the game away for 2 games. They're gonna play Minnesota and Colorado. They're gonna be home for North Illinois and Louisiana. They're playing my Michigan team at home. So 3 home games in a row. They're gonna be at Illinois. They're gonna be home for Northwestern, Purdue, away for Michigan State, home for Maryland, away for Wisconsin, and home to finish the season against Iowa. Looking at that schedule, 4-8 last year. Better, same.
They'll be better. They'll win 6 games.
You want to give them 6?
Yeah, they'll beat Northern Illinois. They'll beat Louisiana Tech. They'll beat Northwestern.
Mm-hmm.
They'll compete against Purdue. They could go either way against Maryland. The big games for them are the last game at home against Iowa. The Wisconsin game is a big game. The Michigan State game, because if you remember last year, they played Michigan State, and I think it was a fairly close game.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of blew it by, again, not sustaining offense and letting the defense out there too long. So I think they'll definitely be better than that, though. I like Matt Rule as a coach. I didn't like him going to the NFL because I thought when you're the thing you do best as a college football coach is recruit. That's not going to be a good formula for success in the NFL. It's not. Nick Saban's the best defensive mind, one of the best defensive minds, period, of all time. And he didn't succeed in the NFL because you can't pick your players.
No,
man. I think Nick Saban, we've talked about this too. I think that's the one thing I could see Nick Saban, if he ever went to Alabama, maybe it was back to the NFL to give it a shot. Not to get too far off of what we were talking about, but Matt Rule is the same way. I think Matt Rule was a really good college recruiter who started to feel like he was a little smarter than he really was.
No, I agree. All right, so I'm going to backtrack just a little bit because I just realized that we did not go over Coastal Carolina's schedule. So we're going to do a little bit of rewind, go back to them real quickly talk about their schedule really quick. So Coastal Carolina is starting off with a bang. They're going to be at UCLA to start the season. Woo! All right. They're going to be home versus Jacksonville State, home versus Duquesne, and home versus Georgia State. They're going to be away for Georgia Southern, away for Appalachian State. You already know they already got that game circled on the calendar. Arkansas State, they're going to be away as well. So they're going to start the season away, 3 home games and 3 away games. That's very interesting. After that, it's going to be a mixture of home and away. They're going to be home versus Marshall, away for Old Dominion, home versus Texas State, away for Army, and to finish it off, home for James Madison. Woo! My first game, Ray. What do you think about that schedule?
You know what? I think they may have a hard time getting to 9 wins.
Yeah.
I mean, I could 8 wins, yeah. 9 is going to be. It's going to depend on if they can beat Marshall or they can beat.
They're gonna have to beat a lot of their inner rival guys. Like
they're UCLA is going to be a hard game for them.
Yeah,
it is.
It is.
Jacksonville State. Yeah, they could beat them. They could beat Duquesne. They could beat Georgia State.
Mm-hmm.
They beat up on Georgia State last year, so I'm sure they could do that. Georgia Southern, they beat them last year, but they beat them at home by 4.
Yeah,
So
a little tougher.
again, that's going to be a tougher game away. Appalachian State, like you said, they have that earmark they do every year, but that's a tough game for them.
Yeah.
At Arkansas State is not an easy game for them. Marshall's a good team coming off of a little bit more of a down year than I thought they were going to have. I thought they were going to be a little bit better than they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're still a good, solid program. Old Dominion's a tough game for them. They got killed by the Old Dominion last year. So, I mean, that's a tough game for them. Old Dominion's a good team.
Yeah.
Old Dominion did lose some talent to the NFL this year.
They did.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Their offensive line, their tight end, I think.
They lost some talent. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
James Madison is a game they can win. It's going to come down. Can they beat Army? Can they beat a Marshall? If they do, they can get to 9 wins. If not, it's probably 7 or 8.
And the funny thing is, like, just blankly looking at this, you could be like, oh, UCLA, they should win most of the rest of the games. Obviously, Appalachian State's a good team, so you can be like, oh, okay, UCLA, Appalachian State, probably the hardest teams. But, like, you look at teams and you really analyze the other teams that they're playing, there are teams that could knock them off. Not at first sight when you first like.
No, because they're games that they beat last year. They're teams they beat last year. But you also got to remember that, Drew, this, but playing games in conference is hard.
It is.
Okay, if you get wins in conference, that separates you from the rest of the teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, coming off 2 years in a row where you beat Ohio State, that was the game where we can't beat this team. If we want to be Michigan, we have to beat this team.
Yep.
I mean, again, this is Coastal Carolina, lower division, but again, if we want to be an elite team like we think we could be, we need to beat Appalachian State. We need to beat Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, but again, I honestly see like 7 or 8 wins.
Yep. I see it. It's definitely a possibility. All right. I know we're kind of running a little behind, but we're gonna get this right. We got this. Let's get to UNC, North Carolina, Tar Heels. Finishing the year 9-5. Slightly down year than we thought. There were some little surprises at certain positions, especially the quarterback position. A guy that I don't think anybody thought he was going to play as good as he did. I think we all had high hope for him, but he played very well. That would be Drake May. He will be going into his junior year this year. Played very, very well. Was in the Heisman talks for a long time as well. First and foremost, overall, what do you think about this team? And let's talk about the quarterback position.
I like their offensive line from center to left guard, left tackle, Corey Gaynor, Ed Mentulius, and William Barnes. I like their center to left tackle on their offensive line. I like Drake May. I think he's a good quarterback. He's a good football player. I like their tight end, Kamaro Morales. I think he's a good football player. I think people need to pump the brakes on Drake May now. I mean, I do. I think that they need to calm down, use the air brakes this time, okay, man? Because, I see people he's going to be drafted before Caleb Williams now. Let's calm down.
Yeah.
Down.
It's
had a really nice year. 1 year had a really nice year.
Correct.
Okay. Correct. But no, he's got the size, he's got the arm. He looks like he has it all. Calm down.
He looks the part, and I think that's why he gets so much praise too. Because obviously, when you look the part and you play well, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. One thing to say to these people:
another guy, automatically,
Brock Purdy. Okay, Brock Purdy was going to be a first-round pick 3-4 years ago. Okay, Let's calm down, pump the brakes.
Yep. No, I agree.
See, don't get me wrong. He has talent. He has upside, and I'm a big Brock Purdy fan, bigger than most people are. But I do see comparison. I see a guy who had one really good year, and now people have him going in the first round. Just calm down, man, okay?
Oh man, that's funny. That is hilarious. No, I definitely agree with you. I do see the upside in him, which makes
Of
it
course.
intriguing for me. Obviously, you always want to go in and be like, oh yeah, like this kid, he looks the part. Let's see how he does. And I'm with you, Ray. Pump the brakes a little bit, see how he continues. Especially with I'll be honest, Ray. I'm not sure how good these receivers are.
No, I'm not either. I'm not impressed with any of them. They and then people will say, "Well, he was really good playing with limited wide receivers," and I agree with that a little bit too. But
Hmm.
again, made a lot of plays off script last year.
Yeah,
Let's see what he does when the defense is now adjust to what they saw last year. Again,
yeah,
that was my reason for last year. I told people, man, the 49ers should just ride out by Brock Purdy. Nobody has game film on him yet. Now, Brock Purdy will be either a success or a failure the next 2 years. This
yeah.
guy will be either a failure or a success this year, as far as where his draft status will go. But
Hmm.
there's definitely talent there. I'm not trying to say there's not. There's definitely big time upside talent there. But
100%.
let's see him do it more than 1 year, man.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think that we need to see a little bit more from him, but the intrigue is definitely there. And
No.
obviously, he's gonna have to have some support around him. Let's talk about the running back position that he has right there. Who kind of stands out to you in this group?
I like Elijah Green a little bit, but there's nothing really. Again, it sounds like, well, why are you questioning the quarterback? Again, not a great running back room either, but
Yeah,
he they do enough. I mean, Matt, man, let's face it. Matt Brown's a good coach.
yeah,
I mean, we all know Matt Brown is a good coach. He has a very imaginative mind and likes assistant coaches who have imaginative minds on offense, and they get a lot done. I
yeah,
mean, their problem last year was as much with their as really honestly for the last 3 years has been their defense.
yeah,
They can't stop anybody.
yeah. I see. I agree. Let's talk about some of the defensive guys, Ray. Like you're saying, it's hard for them to kind of stop guys on this defense, but a few bright spots on this team though. Who kind of stands out to you on the defense at least?
I like DeAndre Boykins. I think he's a good football player. I
Hmm.
like Cedric Gray. He's a will linebacker. I think he's a good solid football player. I like Power Equals, who's a nice linebacker. The problem is they can't cover.
Yeah.
They can't cover anybody. They're like downhill type players,
Hmm.
and their defensive line are all older guys, but none of them. Miles Murphy is good, okay, but he's not
DJ
great.
Murphy.
He's good. Um, Kevin Hester is solid. Javante Ricci is solid, but there's nothing there that. And again, a 3-3-5,
Hmm.
a quick striking offense. So even though North Carolina is not what we were talking about in Nebraska, where they don't sustain offense, North Carolina sustains offense, but
Yeah.
quickly. They score quickly, and then their
Hmm.
defense is out there, and they're not good. I mean, I'm not trying to say that they're only bad because the offense doesn't help them out. The offense don't help them out by not running the ball a little more than they could.
Definitely. No, I agree. I think that you're right about this defense. There's not a lot of big names on this defense, and
And they're
we,
undersized guys
we
everywhere.
yeah, and me, you talk about ACC defense sometimes, man, and there's not a lot going on there. So we
Yeah.
can definitely see. We'll see how they go, but they were number one in their conference last year. Let's talk about the schedule coming up. Again, like we said, 9-5 this year. And their schedule coming up is going to consist of them starting away versus South Carolina. They're going to be at I'm sorry, they're going to be home versus Appalachian State and Minnesota. They're going to be away versus Pitt, and then they have three home games versus Syracuse, Miami, and Virginia. They're going to be away versus Georgia Tech, home versus Campbell, Duke, and away to end the season versus Clemson and NC State. Ray, how's this looking for you?
I see about the same record, Jerome, like 9-5 record. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I see. Again, they're a good offensive team. They're going to score points. Can their defense do anything to help them out for the first time in what seems like at least 3 years?
Yeah.
North Carolina's been a good team since Mac Brown got there, but their defenses have been horrible. Their offenses have carried them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That first game versus South Carolina can go either way for me. I think
they can.
they're both really good teams. Kind of go down the list a little bit. They got some teams that could beat them, but I think they should win. Appalachian State, we talked about them. They're a strong team. We'll talk about them in the future. Next few games, I think solid, good teams. Miami's a team that
Miami
always have a lot of talent, but they should beat them. We'll
underachieving
see.
sometimes.
Yeah. Um, Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech is a surprising team. Actually, they might give them a little trouble, but they should beat them. Then you got Duke, and then the last two games of the season, obviously Clemson is going to be a really hard game. They probably going to lose that game. We'll see. And then NC State, which is a solid team as well. So they got games where a lot of them they can win. A lot of them are like 50-50 or 60-40 kind of games. And then you only got a few teams that you're like, all right, they should definitely lose to. So I agree with you, right? It's not a crazy schedule where you're like, oh man, like their defense is gonna get cooked every week. This
Nah,
defense can sustain some of these games, right?
I think that you'll see like early on if they can get out of the gate fairly quickly, they'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think at Pitt is a tough game. Even though Pittsburgh's lost some talent this year too.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina lost some talent on defense, especially.
Yeah.
We'll see, but they're big games for them now. If they can win both of those games,
Mm-hmm.
Appalachian State is a good team.
Yeah.
But they're a team that obviously North Carolina can beat. I mean,
Yeah.
they're out more athletic than Appalachian State. They're not a better,
And that's what I mean. That's what I mean by that. Like
Syracuse, Miami, Virginia. Those games are games you could win. You should win at least two of those games.
Uh-huh.
And then Georgia Tech is always a solid game, and they have a strong running game against North Carolina's defense. So that's a tough game.
Yeah.
They're not going to be Clemson. Not in Clemson. They're not going to win that game. NC State is a big game for them because they could win that game. Conceivably, if they win that game, that's a huge game for them.
Yeah. So, like I said, not a horrible schedule. So we'll definitely see how they do, and good luck with them, man. And then maybe some of those games will allow their defense to get the confidence, and they'll be better than they were the last few years. We'll see.
You know that Drake May actually led their team in rushing last year too.
He did.
He did.
I didn't realize that. I know he rushed a lot. I will say I know he rushed a lot.
He had almost 700 yards and 7 touchdowns, dude.
Wow.
I mean, again, I see the talent.
Yeah. 100%. All right, let's get to our last team real quick. Like I said, we are a little behind on time. But let's talk about the Texas Longhorns. Last year, ending the year at 8-5. This team is going to be very, very interesting, especially at the quarterback position, because Quinn Ewers was there. They got Archie Manning. One of those guys is going to have to start. It's going to be a battle. I'm hearing some rumblings in camp about these two guys so far. But overall, Ray, before we get to the quarterbacks, overall, what do you think about this team?
This is a nice roster of a little bit of an underachieving team last year, I think.
100%.
They played well against certain teams. They played well against Alabama. So lost.
Lost two of their key running backs too. So that's going to be very interesting because they could go from a little bit and they shouldn't have passed as much as they did last year with the two running backs they had. And I think that was ultimately my reason why I think they didn't play as well.
It was weird though, Jerome. There'd be one game where they would throw the ball 40 times, the next game they'd run the ball 40 times.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the year they realized like we need to start running. Like, what's going on?
You know, like, yeah, man, you want your offense to be as balanced as you can be, but you have Bijan Robinson, man.
Yeah,
Anyway, you get the guy the ball.
DJ Robinson and don't get Rashawn Johnson. He was a
Yeah,
good running back.
like
They both were.
yeah, you should have found ways to get them guys the ball more, man. There's no question about that.
Yes, 100%.
And the fact that your defense wasn't that great, so you run the ball.
Yeah.
So
there was another team that had one of those identity things where, you know, they got the big name quarterback. Oh man, we got to start passing with this guy, and kind of forgetting, hey, we got two really good running backs. What are we doing? This guy just got here. Let him, you know, kind of develop back there a little bit.
You look at their record, like they had a really, even in the games they lost, they were like really close games, man. Really, really close games. I mean, Washington, they lost 27-20, which was, you know, of course, they lost to TCU by 7. They lost to Oklahoma State by 7. They lost to Iowa State by they won that game. They lost to Texas Tech by 3.
I was about to say
they lost to Alabama by 1.
Yeah.
I mean, games,
that was a good game. That was a good game. I remember that game. That was so good.
Yeah, you know what I remember about that game? It was the same game Notre Dame went out there and lost to Marshall. Same day.
That was a wild week. I remember that now.
Same day, man.
That was a wild week.
They were like, oh, man. And people, it was crazy. People all just assumed Notre Dame was going to win that game. We went ahead by like 2 points at halftime. Oh, this game's over. All people were talking about was Texas is beating Alabama. You know,
was that's the game you went to, right?
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. Wow. That must have been annoying hearing that.
Oh my God.
Losing.
So
crazy. All right. Let's get into the roster a little bit, right? And we already kind of alluded to the quarterback position right now. Quentin Ears and Arch Manning. Arch Manning coming in as a freshman, but they're already talking about they're going to be competing for the job. I mean, obviously, 2 top 5 quarterbacks in both of their respective classes.
These guys are both first-round picks.
What is your take on this situation, Ray? I mean, they're both close in age.
I think yours will probably come out there and win the job event in the beginning because he has more experience.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen for real. I mean,
yeah,
I know Arch Manning is an extremely talented young guy. So I guess we'll see if the coach is true to his word and they're both competing. We'll see what happens. But I would be surprised if yours doesn't at least play.
I wouldn't be either, especially from some of the rumors I kind of alluded to earlier that Arch Manning's looking not too great out there now.
I mean,
he's got a freshman, though. You know, he got a lot of pressure on him to.
We all know.
All eyes on him. Obviously, the name is a big deal too. So, that's gonna. I think that's gonna happen, and you know, they're not.
Okay, Jerome is frozen. Okay, Jerome is gone. Okay, well, what I'm going to do now is just end the show right here. I have last year, Texas went 8-5. I think 8-5 is going to be hard for them to get to. Hold on 1 second. Okay, well, he's saying he's going to be back in a minute, so I'm going to keep going anyway, just so we're not just sitting here looking at my ugly face. They start off the season with Rice. They play at Alabama. They play Wyoming at Baylor, Kansas versus Oklahoma, at Houston, BYU, Kansas State, at TCU, at Iowa State, at Texas Tech. Last year they lost.
Sorry about that, guys. I knocked off
You
my
know,
power while I was talking, but I was listening. Ray, man, don't worry about your face, man. You good? You good? Your face is good. But go ahead, Ray. Keep going. Keep going.
All right. Well, I was just going over their schedule for this year, Jerome.
Yep.
We all know that the quarterback is talented. We all know
Mhm.
Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver, is talented. Jordan Whittingham is senior, who's a pretty talented guy. Kelvin Banks is a nice left tackle. Hayden Connor is a good left guard. Their center is Jake Majors, who's a nice little player. The right side are both veteran guys, and Christian Jones and Cole Hudson. So they have a nice foundation on offense. They do.
Yeah.
Um,
And I like Jonte Cook. I like Jonte
yes,
Cook. He's gonna
yes,
be a big guy for
yes.
them. I think he's gonna start early.
The question is who's going to take over for Bijan Robinson. Right now, it looks like it's going to be Jonathan Brooks. We'll see how that goes.
Yep.
But again, they threw the ball a lot last year. I kind of expect with them, when not having a guy like Bijan Robinson, where they probably will throw the ball maybe even more this year.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how that goes. But again, they're playing Rice. They should win that game. Then they're at Alabama. You can't ever predict anybody beating Alabama, right? Wyoming at Baylor is a big game for them. They could win it. They could lose it. It's a conference game. So Kansas they should beat versus Oklahoma. Again, that's a rivalry game. That's a big game.
It's
At
gonna be
Houston,
interesting.
it will be. It always is. So that's a big game for them. At Houston, probably a high scoring game, but an interesting game. They could win. They could lose. It's Houston. They usually play good on offense. BYU, I think, is a nice team, but they should beat them at home. Kansas State, another team that lost a lot of talent during the draft this year, including one of the best all-purpose backs in college football.
Lost their running backs, two of their staple DNs.
Yep, they've lost
tackles.
So we'll see how that goes. But again, you're probably a more talented team than TCU. Iowa State is a weird team because they're really up and down, but they have their up weeks. So and it's at Iowa State. Texas Tech is another game where last year you beat Texas Tech, I believe, right? I thought so earlier. Did they beat Texas Tech?
Mm-hmm.
No, they lost to Texas Tech by 3.
They lost to them.
They lost to them at Texas Tech by 3. So again, that's a game you could win. We'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they'll be at least 8-5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I can see 8-5 easy.
Which is exactly what they had last year.
Right, 9-4 possibly if they play well against Baylor, Oklahoma, and they win like the Iowa game or the TCU game. I think they're a good team. I think they're going to be. Steve Korskezian is a good coach, good offensive mind. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm expecting Texas to be a good team.
So Ray, this is the very interesting part about this Texas schedule is that they play Alabama very, very early in the season at Alabama. If they go in that game and I don't think anybody think they might win that game. And we'll talk about Alabama, but they're looking, they're kind of iffy on their quarterback side at the moment too.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, if they go to that Alabama game and lose by more than 10 points, and you got this quarterback quarterback controversy right now, and Ewers don't play great, do you see them looking into getting Peyton Manning out there?
Honestly, if I were going to start him, I would start him against Kansas.
I agree with you, but you gotta look at it like, all right, Ewers, like let's say Ewers don't play well at all,
Well,
right?
he's going to beat
It is
Rice.
Alabama. It is Alabama, but gives you a chance to kind of bring in a young guy versus Wyoming the next game at home too, and see how he plays there.
See, I
And
would,
this is
and
the
I get
problem I have.
that, but I'm afraid of the at Baylor game the next week.
Yeah,
So I
I
think
agree.
if that's the case, you expect yours to beat Rice, even if they lose. I mean, this funny thing is they played Alabama week 2 last year too, and lost by a point. Yeah,
Wow, I don't remember that
they
being.
played ULM the first week, beat them, and then lost to Alabama September 10th, second week, 19
Wow,
to 20.
wow. They playing those
So, but again,
September
if they
9th this
beat
year.
right, say even if they lose to Alabama, and then chances are they should beat Wyoming. Now, if you
Yeah,
lose that game, then that's where you start thinking, oh,
maybe we
oh.
should.
But even if I say worst case scenario, they beat Royce, they lose Alabama, they lose Iowa, Wyoming. I don't want to start a freshman quarterback against Baylor's defense.
Definitely. No, I
So
agree.
I would wait till
I,
the week against Kansas because defense.
listen,
That's a game where if you're going to have a quarterback who's a playmaker, like I think Arch Manning's going to be,
mhm.
I want him going against Kansas defense.
Yeah. Listen, one of those guys not gonna be here next year. One of the two. I
Well,
can't see
I think Ewers will enter the NFL draft and get drafted.
after two
I'm pretty,
years because
yeah,
he's gonna be what? So he's gonna be a sophomore this year, right?
yeah,
I don't think he can because the well, hold on, I'm confused now because he's an interesting case because he considered as a freshman, but he was redshirted on the Ohio State, so that's why. So
yeah, well, yeah,
he wouldn't
yeah.
be
Right.
he wouldn't be
He's
eligible.
still he's. I think he could be though because he did have a redshirt year, and then
For
that
Ohio.
still means he's left college football, high school 3 years ago. I think the
Mm,
rule was 3 years out of high school now.
unless he got redshirted though. It is 3 years, right? You're right. But if he got redshirted, he has to do one extra year, I believe.
I don't think you have to play the extra year. I think you can, but you don't have to.
Like, but he got redshirted. It's a difference between not playing in your freshman year than getting
I
redshirted.
still think if the rule is 3 years after you leave high school, you can enter the NFL draft.
Hmm. Well, hey, if some of our commenters are in here, let us know what you think is the correct answer. I know you guys got access to Google right now, so you can kind of Google it right now and let us know. I think that with him being redshirted with the Ohio State last year, well, 2 years ago, that he's not eligible next year. But hey, if you know what it is, put it in the comment section. We'll put it on the screen. We'll give you credit for it. Um, but yeah, it's just gonna be very interesting. I can't see both of them being here next year. Either way, if one of them goes to the NFL draft or one of them is gonna be in the transfer portal, I don't see one of them. And it might be Archie Manning. It
I
depends.
was, I was honestly, I was a little surprised that he went to Texas, but
I was surprised too. I was surprised too. Very very surprised. I mean, why put yourself through that? But maybe he thought he can beat him out. Maybe he thought he can beat him out. So
maybe he can.
maybe you're right. He might be able to. I don't know. I mean, like I said, there was
I
rumblings
mean,
in
there
camp
still
saying that he was
is, yeah, but
so
there's going to be that period
yeah, yeah, yeah,
where where he's going to struggle.
yeah.
I mean, there's hardly usually for one, most college quarterbacks don't start as freshmen anyway.
Correct.
So I mean, he's going to be that guy where if Arch Manning's not a good player, I'd be really surprised.
Mm, definitely.
So
Well, we'll definitely see how that goes. And guys, that's gonna do it for us today as far as our draft coverage. I'm still on the draft, man. Our college football coverage for the 2023, 2022, 2023, 2024 season. I hope you guys enjoyed. Definitely leave a comment in the comment section. If you're watching live, or if you can't watch live, you can watch later on, or you want to rewind it later on. Definitely put a comment on there. Let us know what you think about some of the things that was going on in here. Let's get a real quick Ray's rant. We got 3 minutes, Ray. Let's go.
Okay. You know what? I don't really have a real rant this week. I
Okay.
just want I hate to go back down this road again. I get I
Lamar
get
Jackson.
no, it's not well, technically yes, but
I'm
no. I
joking.
get blasted for how I would run. Like I have people telling me you could never work for an NFL team because you would never want to pay players. No, I don't think it's that I don't want to pay them. I don't want to overpay them.
Mm, yeah, I hear that.
I mean, you're like I again, Baltimore signed their quarterback. It's great. They also signed Odell Beckham Jr. Was that a good move?
That was an overpay
Was
and
that
a
a good
half.
move?
That man did
Let me
not
ask
play
you
in a
this:
full
would
year.
you rather have Odell Beckham Jr. and whatever other receiver you could get off, from wherever, or would you rather have DeAndre Hopkins and maybe Juju Smith-Schuster
Man, yeah, yeah.
for like $10 million more?
Yeah,
Both of
about
them,
because what Odell Beckham get like 13, something like that, 10,
15,
13,
15,
15.
15 million.
That's wild.
I mean, like that's why.
Talented guy, but again, coming off an injury, older now.
Yeah, man. Is there anybody going to question that DeAndre Hopkins is better than Odell Beckham right now?
I don't know because DeAndre Hopkins kind of like fell a little bit too, just a little bit. I'm not gonna.
So you don't think that had anything to do with his quarterback going crazy for a couple months there?
No, I'm not gonna say that either. Because like also, yeah, I think Kyler Murray got injured as well at some point. So
Yeah, and like whatever for whatever reason he struggled, man.
yeah, no, he
The
did.
team struggled. It's
Yeah,
fine. I'm not
yeah,
blaming him. The team struggled. That's how it is. The team struggles, the quarterback struggles. But DeAndre
I will.
Hopkins,
I would take Hopkins over Odell Beckham.
well, only because he's not gotten hurt the last 3 years he's played.
Yeah, plus he's younger.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Well,
you got a little bit
I
more
don't
catch
know if
rate.
he's younger. They're both 30, right?
I thought DeAndre was 28. I could be wrong.
I think they're both 30.
Really,
Or Hopkins is 30 and Odell is 31.
something like that. I think you might be right because I think they're not in the same draft. All right, DeAndre Hopkins. He is 31. Wow.
31. That's right. He just turned 31, like not that long ago.
Wow. All right. Odell Beckham, 30. Odell Beckham's younger. That's crazy. I did not know that. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Doesn't play like he's younger though.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
I mean, like I don't.
Uh,
I just don't think you should just throw money at guys for the sake of throwing money at guys. That's all.
I hear you.
I mean, like I'm never going to agree with people about Lamar Jackson. We're just on different pages. That's all.
Definitely, definitely.
I mean, I know a couple people that kind of like the Ravens a little bit. We're just completely on different pages, man.
It's okay.
They love the fact that the guy makes plays with his legs, and I think inevitably it'll catch up to him. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, with the injuries, the past injuries the last couple of years, I can definitely see that.
I just don't think. I don't think that, like, for one, I'm more of a college fan, so I'm a little different than other people. I don't think that you should just throw money at NFL players like they are right now.
No, I agree.
I mean, and they do work for their money, though. Well, usually, so.
Definitely.
Looking
Well, that's gonna do it.
forward to see the fastest team in the NFL coming soon, though.
Oh man, here we go. Anyway, let's get off of this before we're getting another rant about his Miami Dolphins. But that's gonna do it for us. I think you saw us out. I see we do have a few people in here. Oh, before we get off, we do have a late comment. Who has cap space to actually sign him this late for big money. They're gonna work it in. Trust me, they're going to work it in. Right
Cleveland.
now,
I
I heard he.
think the Browns will probably try to sign him.
Yeah, right now I heard he's visiting the Titans, and they do have money over there. So we'll
I
see.
would not want to go there.
I agree, but he is visiting them. We'll see. Which tells me a lot. There must not be a lot of suitors at the moment. Like the ones that he
I
want, at least the ones that he want. So
if he's going for money, then I don't want nothing to do with it anyway, so it don't matter.
yeah, definitely. But they're gonna do it for us today, guys. Make sure you go check us out on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Inside the Hashes or Inside. Make sure you check out our website as well. You can click on that QR code right over there, right near Ray, right over here,
Right there.
right there, and you can scan that QR code if you want to find all our social media on there on YouTube and everything as well. Another late comment. Hold on, real quick.
Nice.
Lay off my Titans, Ray.
Well, I don't have nothing against the Titans. I just don't think they're going to be that great
that
of a team this
that
year.
that sound like a old friend of ours. If you know who I'm talking about, Ray.
Yeah, I don't have much faith in their quarterback situation. I'll just leave it at that.
Definitely. No, I agree. But that's gonna do it for us right now today, guys. Thank you all for getting on for us with us. Facebook user, I cannot figure out who you were. I do apologize, but we do thank you for definitely checking us out and talking to us. Hold on, my beauty, tell who that is. That is Alan. It was Alan. I knew it. What's up, Alan? Good to see you, man. Good to talk to you. Appreciate you checking us out again, Mr. Allen. But that's gonna do it.
Alan, before we get off, how you going to feel when they trade Derrick Henry?
I was hearing rumblings about him going to Philly. I'm glad that we didn't get him. I think that was going to be expensive, but that would have been wild if we got him. But anyway, RPO podcast, not NFL. Thank you guys so much for talking to us today, man. We appreciate every single one of you guys. Hopefully, you enjoy. If you missed most of the podcast, or if you didn't get to watch this podcast live, definitely go on our YouTube channel. Put a comment on there. We comment back on every comment that you put on there. So definitely check that out for us. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for us. That definitely supports and help us out in every single way. Definitely check us out next week. We will be talking about some more teams. If there's some teams that you want us to talk about in the college football realms, definitely let us know in the comment section as well. And we will talk about those teams as well. So again, thank you guys so much for checking us out. My name is Jerome Jones. This is Ray Roberts. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Stay safe, and we see you on the next one. Peace.